As Ukraine's fight against Russia surpasses the length of World War I, its neighbor, Poland, is now stepping up its own defense against a potential threat from Moscow. MS Now international reporter Inez de la Quatera has more from Warsaw.
Good morning, John. Yeah, here in Poland, officials say they're going to be doing everything they can to expand the U.S.'s presence, while also telling us they are preparing for the U.S. to continue reducing its commitments on the continent.
With the war in Ukraine raging right on its doorstep, there's perhaps no European country more acutely aware of the growing threat posed by Russia. Often described as a model ally by the Trump administration, Poland now spends more of its GDP on defense than any other NATO country. President Trump recently reversed course on troop deployments to Poland, announcing the U.S. would send an additional 5,000 troops to Poland just weeks after the Pentagon announced it would pull 4,000 troops from the European country.
Those are not contradictory concepts. If you move U.S. troops, or send new ones, whatever the configuration, to where the threat is, which is the eastern flank, you can have fewer overall in Europe, but more on the eastern flank, which is to say here.
Poland's deputy prime minister and minister of foreign affairs says they are also preparing for a future in which Europe may have to carry much more of its own defense burden. Trump has repeatedly threatened to pull the U.S. out of NATO.
I suspect it's a trend that we have to live with beyond this administration, that the U.S., because of the debt issue and because of its rivalry with China, will be doing it for the long term.
As Poland's economy booms, becoming one of Europe's fastest growing economies, set to join the G20 this year, the country is now positioning itself as a defense leader inside the EU. Through a new European defense initiative known as SAFE, Poland is set to receive nearly 44 billion euros, the largest share of any member state.
What the SAFE mechanism changes is fulfilling what President Trump said, that Europe has to take responsibility for itself, and that's what we are doing.
Poland also signing new military partnerships across Europe, including a recent defense agreement with the UK. All critical investments, officials tell us, because Russia is already waging war on Poland.
The first year after the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, we noticed 5 times more attacks on our infrastructure. Last year we blocked more than 4 million phishing emails that were sent to our soldiers.
And Polish officials say the threats go far beyond cyber attacks.
This is serious business. We've had arsons, we've had assassinations, we've had an attempt to blow up rails under a moving train. Only through the incompetence of the Russian operatives, nobody died. We had an attempt to put incendiary devices on planes. Imagine what that could have caused.
When asked about nearly 200 such incidents across Europe that Western officials blame on Russia, President Putin said there was no proof that Moscow was involved. For Poland, the lesson from Ukraine is clear. Keeping America close remains essential, but Europe can no longer afford to depend as much on the U.S. for its security.
And NATO allies will be meeting next month in Turkey for the NATO summit. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed President Trump will be attending. Rubio says the U.S. will remain a part of NATO and that the meeting will serve to address strategic differences among allies. John?
Inez de la Quatera in Warsaw, thank you so much.